Yo, what up?
What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday
Saturday night.
night.
So normally normally let's just start off with what was happening while the intro was playing, because we're very real couple. We keep it real. We keep it authentic. when the While the intro music was playing, we were having a discussion because normally it's dark in here during after, because it's called have a conversation after dark. So it's usually dark in here. My wife comes down while the intro is playing, and she's like, basically, why are the lights on? I said, well, I want to keep the lights on tonight. She was like, well, the show is after dark. This is my preference tonight. You cool with me?
It's whatever.
Oh, see, now it's it's whatever. So listen, can I decipher what that means for all of you out there who don't understand?
Let's just get on with the show.
See what I'm saying? Who don't understand our language? That means she's not okay with it.
It's just a show. Let's get on with it.
Let's just be clear with that.
Let's not.
With that being said,
belabor the point.
With that being said, Mr. Chase Jackson is in the house. My man. Listen, if you're not following Chase Jackson, Chase has a phenomenal podcast and is doing some great things. Make sure you check out Chase Jackson. Listen, I will say this in front of everyone. I will not keep the lights on for the next one.
Babe, it's not. You're making a big deal out of this now, and it's really not. Let's go with the show. Okay.
Y'all see it here first, ladies and gentlemen. So listen, tonight, here we go. This is what we're talking about. We're just really talking about what are some things. Basically, here's the gist of this. This question is the gist of this, which is the question is this: when is the last time you asked your spouse this? We're going to give you a whole bunch of examples of what this is, right? Um, but when is the last time you asked your spouse this? Let me start out by asking you this question: Is is a person's past off limits?
Off limits. What do you mean? As
So,
as far as talking,
right,
having conversation about it?
yeah.
Uh, I don't think so.
So couples should be able to talk about their past. So you should be able to, for those of us who were not celibate before marriage, can you go to your spouse and be like, hey, how many people were you with before we got married?
Mhm. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think so.
Okay. So
I
there's
I'm just thinking of us. I know that we can do that, and so I'm sure maybe there are some people who think that they can't, but I guess if you can't talk, I mean, I guess if they don't,
mhm,
maybe they're thinking it's not necessary, it's not relevant.
mhm.
I don't even want to bring that up. I mean, I guess whatever.
So if you're out there, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay, here's a question for you. Can you talk to your spouse about your past, specifically past partners, past relationships? How many people, just to be crass, because this is a term that you hear in other places, body count. What is it, right? Can you talk about that kind of stuff?
I guess what's the point? I
What's the
guess
point?
I guess what would be the point?
Okay, fair.
I I don't what's the point really? Like
Well, I don't know so much that it's there's a point to it as much as it is your relationship evolved enough that you could have that conversation
okay.
and it not be, you know, y'all not speaking to each other, for 2 days afterward
Okay.
because you didn't like what you heard, or
Yeah.
whatever that kind of thing is, right?
Mm,
So that's tonight. We're just throwing out questions like that tonight for just a few minutes. That's it. The first one is your past off limits,
mhm.
right? So I'll give you some examples of some past questions. Have you ever cheated on someone in a past relationship?
Mhm.
When's the last time you asked your spouse that? Can you ask your spouse those kinds of questions, right? Have you been in love in the past? Those kind of questions,
Yeah.
right? Those are past questions. Or even if it's not about other people, when did you realize you were in love with me?
Mhm.
That's a great question to ask because that question now takes you down memory lane.
Right.
And going down memory lane and reminiscing is very essential at times
Mhm.
to realigning your
It can be
relationship.
very therapeutic for
Right.
your relationship.
Okay, so that's a good one. So that's the past. Can you talk to those of you who are watching right now? Let us know. Can you talk to your spouse about their past?
Mhm.
Have you ever talked to your spouse about your past? Is there something you would like to know that you've never asked before?
Is there something you would like to tell that you've never
That you've never
told
told?
before?
That's a good one.
Mhm.
Is there something that you would like to tell you've never told before? Okay, we're moving on. we'll, we'll keep going. we'll keep, we'll keep going. We'll revisit that off camera. we'll we'll revisit that off camera.
Okay.
So that's the past, right? So when's the last time you asked your spouse questions about the past, about their past? When is the last time you shared things about your past? Okay.
Mhm.
So now there's questions about the future. This is a little bit easier,
Mhm.
depending on what you were talking about in the past, right?
Right.
So, how do you think this relationship will look next year? What are your goals? How do you see us 5 years from now? That kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So, those are questions about the future.
Mhm.
What's up, Tab? Tabby is in the
Hi,
house.
Tabby.
Tabby is in the house. What's going on, family?
Hello, family.
Elizan is in the house. What's
Hi,
up, Elizan?
Ellison.
Elizan said, private talk. I'm assuming you're talking about the past. Is private talk, or are you talking
She's
about the?
talking about my reaction to your
Oh, that
question,
that there was
I
no
think.
there was no answer. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. So, when is the last time, for those of you who are joining, when is the last time you had this conversation? When is the last time you asked your spouse this? Tabby said, "I'm here. We love it. Thank you for being here, Tabby."
Yes.
And we're just throwing out questions. When is the last time you asked your spouse this? Because here's the thing, right? I know this Saturday night show is not supposed to be about advice, but we should be actively attempting to learn our spouse.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
should
I
be.
agree 100%. There, do you agree too that, well, I'm sure you do because of what you just said, that there's always something to learn about your spouse?
Yes,
Always?
always.
Okay.
There's always something to learn. I hope this has already been discussed before we got married. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In a perfect world, yes. And I think Tabby's talking about the past.
Right, right,
Yes,
right. Agreed.
I
Agreed.
agree. I promise you, a whole lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
A whole
Not
lot of people don't.
not everything.
Not everything.
Not everything that could be discussed is discussed
Right.
all of the time.
And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why everything is not discussed. For the same reaction that you just had when I talked about body count. You
Mm,
said, "What's the point?"
right. Yeah.
And so for some people, that is their that's
That's
how they
their
think. Like, what's the
rationale.
point? I don't. Why should I need to tell you previous body count
Mhm.
if it's not pertinent to to where we going?
That's how some people think.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how some people. So that's why sometimes those conversations don't they don't happen.
Yeah.
They don't happen. Elizanne said exactly. I got you, Denise. So she was talking about the reaction.
Thank
The
you.
reaction. Tabby said, always something to learn. I agree
That's
with that.
good. That's
Always
good.
something to learn. Always something to learn. And you may not know that there's always something to learn right away. Just over time, there are scenarios that will bring things out
Yeah, that have never come up before.
that have never come up before. So,
Mhm.
like for example, with us, right? We're candid about some of the growth potential that we experienced in our intimacy life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some of the nuances of that did not come out until we experienced certain things.
Right.
So that wasn't a conversation we had prior,
Right.
right? And because the scenario never lent itself to us having that conversation prior. My man, Mr. Holman, what's good, bro? Good to see you, man. Good evening. Thank you for being here with us. So, again, when is the last time you had this conversation with your spouse? When is the
Mhm.
last time you asked your spouse this question? What are the this questions that we're talking about? We gave some questions for the past, some questions for the future. What are your goals for your career? You know, all of the futuristic kinds of questions,
Mhm.
right? We're going through a period of time now where we're trying to build a business. So now these questions, there are some future questions that we have to discuss.
Right.
Where do we see Denali in 5 years?
Yeah.
What are some things we're trying to do in the very immediate future? What are we trying to do in the next 6 to 8 months? What are we trying to do before 2022 is done? So those are some kind of futuristic conversations.
Mhm.
Mr. Ferguson, what's good? What's good,
Dialogue
my friend?
dialogue is only good if dialogue is productive.
Interesting.
That's true.
Okay.
That is true. That's true.
Give give me an example of a time. Give me an example of a dialogue that's not productive. Do you think body count is not productive? Is that a non-productive conversation?
It could possibly be because I go back to what is the point of you needing to know that?
I don't know. I could think of a reason why I would need to know it, but I don't. I
Or
can't think of
not
it right
you,
now.
but I'm just saying what would be the point of a person
Right.
needing to know that?
So that could potentially be something that's unproductive.
Yes.
By the way, Mario, we need to talk. You and I need to get together at some point. I know I tried, and life happened, but let's get together. Side note.
But
Um,
I'm just thinking maybe Mario's point was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mario, is if the dialogue turns into a disagreement or an
mhm.
argument and you never really end up resolving what it is you came to the table to talk about in the first place because now you're arguing.
Okay,
That's not productive.
that's not productive. I get it.
That's what I thought when I read that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elizan says, unless there's an issue that now affects the relationship, past relationships don't matter. I'm on the fence about that.
I That's why I didn't answer right away. I mean, unlike she said, unless there's an issue
Hmm.
that affects your current relationship.
I get it. I
Mm,
understand completely. I
yeah.
do. I'm on the fence about whether past relationships matter or not.
Why? Why
Because
would they matter?
it just depends, right? So if my past relationships were volatile,
Hmm.
you should probably be concerned about that.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know anything about it, you have nothing to be concerned about because you don't know. But if you ask me a question like, "Hey, you know what?" For example, the question about were you ever in love before?
Hmm.
And if you ask that question and we're talking and I say, "Yeah, I was in love before." Okay, what happened? We got in this big fight and I punched her in the face and then
Mm,
her father came after me and
hmm.
now we're not together no more. Now
Hmm.
you looking at me sideways like you did what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's extreme. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
I'm being an extremist when I say that, even though that is a scenario that takes place. But that's an example of why maybe your past relationship might
Might
be
matter.
relevant,
Mm.
right? It might, I don't know, might be a conversation that you need to have. Um, Body count is an unproductive conversation. The only reason would have been in a health issue such as, yeah, okay, I get that. I'm with that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Hmm.
And it would most certainly be relevant if
Right.
you had some kind of STD or you were living
Yeah.
with HIV or something like that.
Hmm.
Absolutely, that
Yeah.
conversation would be
For
relevant.
sure.
Is okay. I'm gonna go with that. I this whole thing is about provoking conversation. So
What were you gonna say?
I don't know. I just feel like we should be able to talk about that kind of stuff, regardless of whether it's a serious issue or has serious implications or not. And I don't know that it's necessarily unproductive as much as it is, hey, I just want to know more about you.
Mm. Okay.
It's nothing that I'm trying to use against you. Like if you're like, hey, I've been with 30 people before you, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you a hoe. You'd be like, man, that's okay.
But you don't
Got some
want.
experience under your belt. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just you don't want your spouse to think anything negative
Mhm.
about you. So maybe that's why,
That could be why.
you know?
That could be why. Pierre, this comment is to Elizan. Body count range instead.
Hmm.
Uh so I understand why you would use range instead because it softens the
It
blow.
softens the blow, right?
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you're like, oh, between 75 and 100, that's still a lot. You might as well give me the number. You know what I mean? Like
Jeez.
you might as well give me the number at that point. If the range, you know what I'm saying? If the range is like 1 to 3, then I get that. You could be a range, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Pierre said because someone that has had two sexual partners before you versus 50, 5 a year for 10 years isn't that informative. Um,
It's informative, yes, because now you have the information, but why?
okay, so let me be clear. Can I just be clear? It's not necessary information. Let me just say that
That's
right
my
now.
point.
I,
Is it necessary
it's not. And I
to
hate to
your relationship?
I
Does it do anything for your relationship?
listen, I hate to admit that it's not necessary, but here's the thing. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Can you talk to your spouse about it?
Yeah,
That's the real question. Now, it's not, and here's the thing, guys. It's not so much should you talk to your spouse about it.
it's can you?
It's can you?
Hmm.
Because if you're in a relationship where you cannot,
Hmm.
that needs to be addressed.
Mm.
It's not so much that I should have to talk about body count with
It's
you.
just can you?
It's can I?
Can you?
And
Yeah.
if the answer is no, I dare say there's something going on under the surface.
Mm.
That's just me. That's just me.
Okay.
Alan, what's good, Alan? My friend, all the way in Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii.
Hi, Alan.
Thank you for joining us, good sir. Alan runs a phenomenal marriage group.
Yeah, he does.
The
He and
the
his wife.
flame marriage class, a phenomenal podcast. If you're not connected with him, make sure you follow him and go listen to that podcast. Fantastic information. Fantastic
It's good
information.
to see you as well. Please say hello to your lovely wife.
Absolutely. A violent partner would show that bad behavior in every relationship. So past relationships will only prove the extent of the abuse. I hear you. And the only reason I'm going to push back on that is because I've seen cases where that's not true.
Oh, I agree that eventually they show that behavior in
Okay.
every relationship if it hasn't been addressed in, therapy and all of that.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily show up right away
Okay.
in a new relationship.
What's up,
Not
fam?
always.
Daddy B is in the house. What's going
Hey.
on? Elena says hello. Hello.
Hi, Elena.
We still have to set up our conversation. I'll reach out to you, Alan, so we can connect with you and Elena again. All right, so that's one thing. That's
Yeah.
questions about the past. When is the
Mhm.
last time you've asked your spouse questions about the past?
Mhm.
When is the last time you asked your spouse questions about the future? And we
Mhm.
talked about some of those future questions, right? What about intimate questions? Because we're supposed to always be learning
Yeah.
our spouse, right?
Yeah.
So, how about questions like, um, how would you like to be complimented?
Mhm.
And that may seem like a no brainer kind of question, but how many people have actually asked the question, how do you like to be complimented?
Right. That's not really a question that you ask or are asked often.
It's not.
It's not.
I just compliment you and I think I'm doing a great
Right.
job. But is it really like what you like?
How else can you compliment someone?
I don't know, but I'm saying that's an interesting question
It
though.
is.
And I don't
It just made me think of how else can that be done?
I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
No, you haven't.
So have I been doing a good job though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how else to compliment anyone other than to give a compliment.
Yeah, it would be terrible if you said no, that I haven't been doing it all these years.
All
I've been
these
doing it the
years,
wrong way.
right?
Here's another intimate question about love. Do you have any doubts about our love lasting?
Mm.
Whew.
You know what though? Some people might, but have never said
Right,
anything.
right.
Oh,
You're right.
that
So
makes me sad.
listen, I'm telling you, these are conversations that
Because why do
you
you
need to have.
why do you feel like you can't? What is it that makes you unable to express that to your spouse? You know?
There could be a lot of things.
There could be, and that's what I'm saying. That makes me sad
Yeah, there
for
could be a
them.
lot. There could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. How do you want to be complimented? Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I've never. So the question we're asking tonight is: when is the last time you asked your spouse this? When is the last time you've had this conversation? And that's one of them.
Mhm.
I've never asked my wife that, how she likes to be
Yeah.
complimented. Just had a conversation with a couple. They don't compliment each other. Wow,
Wow.
wow, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Some could prefer humor versus indirect compliment versus very specific compliment versus written. Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good one. That's a good intimate question.
Mhm.
Let's see. What are some other questions? Okay, let's get into some sexual questions. Some sexual questions, right? When is the last time you asked your spouse, is there anything, and we talked about this, I think, on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
Is
we
there
did.
anything sexual that we have not tried that you would like to try?
Mhm.
Here's a good one. Where and how do you like to be touched?
Mhm. Oh my
That's a good one.
goodness. If your spouse doesn't know that, please have that conversation.
I
Please.
promise you, there are some people who don't know that.
Yeah, please have that conversation because you could just your spouse could be the best, hopefully, the best love maker out there or to you in the world, right?
Hmm.
But they could be just doing it all wrong. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
got to have that conversation. It's almost like a love language.
Hmm.
If you're not speaking my love language, I'll appreciate that you do what you do, but it doesn't make me feel loved
Right.
because you're not speaking my language. It's the same thing with love making.
Yeah.
Your spouse has to know what feels
Gotta
good
know.
to you, what doesn't feel good to you, because your bodies are different. Your body is different than anyone else's. So what works for one person doesn't work for the next person.
Right. And here can I just be comical for a second, but I'm being serious. The fact that you think you're the greatest lover in the world, even though you're not in this situation, could
Right.
be tied to body count.
Oh,
Because you think you was knocking it out with them other 75 people. So you bring in all of that
oh man.
here and it ain't working.
Mercy.
But never had no conversation about what works here and what
Please
doesn't
talk
work.
to your spouse about that.
So yeah, that's listen, I'm telling you. Let me catch some of these comments. When being in a relationship that is taking on a level of permanence, certain types of
Let's see.
questions are a must. And if one cannot stand to be scrutinized, it's time to reevaluate.
I agree, but that word scrutinized, if that's how your spouse feels, then that may be why, not your spouse in particular. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, if that's how a spouse feels,
yeah,
if they feel like they're being scrutinized, then that might make them
mhm,
feel defensive.
I agree.
But if they feel like, I'm just trying to get to know you,
Mhm.
they may be more open to talking to you about whatever. But
I,
I mean, if I feel like I'm being scrutinized
yeah,
when you
that's a
ask
different
me
kind of conversation.
questions,
Yeah,
then I'm going to be like, "Why are you coming at me like that?"
I agree. I agree with that. So scrutinize would use a different term.
Although
If
I totally
right,
100% agree with your point though.
yeah, I agree with the sentiment. If you can't talk about it, there is some reevaluation.
Yeah.
Public public appreciation is always not. So Tabby is not a public appreciation.
Public
At least I
appreciation.
think
What do you mean,
that was
Tab?
going back to what I think it was Pierre that said was given the different types of compliments.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Okay.
What would you say to couples who withhold sex? I'm gonna come back to that, Alan. Give me a second. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. I think some of these questions can be related to love language and love style. Agreed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
That tie a lot of that falls under the umbrella of speaking your spouse's love language, which
Mhm.
one, you need to know. So that's a conversation.
Mhm.
And two, you also need to have a conversation about how to speak it.
Yeah.
Because if you think about conversation,
Mhm.
there are certain dialects of
Yes.
a particular
That's the word
language,
I was thinking, dialect.
right?
Mhm.
So I can't just be like, do you speak Spanish? Yeah, okay, but do you speak Portuguese?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
think of the African languages. There's a whole bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have that conversation about, okay, well, how do I need to speak to you with that love
And
language?
I always bring this up when we talk about love languages. People always think about the five love languages because of the book.
Mhm,
And I think they're phenomenal. And I think that they are valid. But I don't think that those are the only ways
mhm,
that your spouse or that you can love your spouse. I
mhm.
don't think
Agreed.
those are the only languages. I
Agreed.
don't think that there are only five. You have to learn your spouse and find out how they want to be or how they need to be loved. It may
Agreed.
not be one of the five.
Agreed. And again, hence again, when's the last time you had that conversation?
Yep.
Right? Questions should be asked again. People change over time, without a doubt.
Yes.
You better
100%.
believe it.
Yep.
Continually study and learn your spouse.
Yeah.
I love it. Yep. That's right. Knocking it out. Taking the time to learn each other, absolutely, without a doubt, it's
Mhm.
important. Tabby made a correction. She said it's always nice. Public
Oh, okay.
appreciation
Got you. Got you. Got
is
you.
always
Yes,
nice.
it is. I agree.
What is perceived as withholding could actually be that you are not speaking the same language as your spouse. Okay. I need more context. I understand that. I need more context. That's speaking to what Alan said. So since that comment came up, let me touch on that. Withholding, here is my take.
Mhm.
There is I'm gonna come from a biblical place, and then I'm gonna come from an Oliver place.
Mhm.
In the Bible, it says that you should separate for a time of prayer. I'm paraphrasing,
Mhm.
and then you should come back together, lest something go down.
Mhm.
That's biblical.
Mhm.
So that essentially is like you shouldn't. That's probably there's no other reason to withhold outside of you being like, hey, I got to go in this prayer closet, and I don't want you coming in here naked. So leave me alone,
Mhm.
right? My take. Oliver, there's absolutely no reason to withhold sex.
No,
No, no, no. Hold on,
no.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Hear me, hear me, hear me.
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought
Sorry.
you were saying. I thought
Jeez.
you were saying you don't agree with me, which is fine if you didn't. Here's and here's the reason why I say that. Typically, hear me. That word is crucial. Typically,
Mhm.
I'm going off of the couples that we have seen in the past that have dealt with this. Typically, that withholding. See, y'all making us do stuff we only do on Sundays, man. We're not supposed to be giving out no advice tonight. That's supposed to be Sunday show.
No, it's okay.
So, typically, in cases where withholding is taking place, it is out of spite and resentment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that they're hurt. Well, I guess that would be spiteful because you're hurt. Yeah. Absolutely.
Listen, I did a video. I did a video a while back. And in the video, I was essentially saying that when you use a weapon, when you weaponize something against
Mhm.
your spouse,
Mhm.
almost always that weapon backfires.
Mhm.
If you use sex as a weapon, if you use limited or cut off communication as a weapon, whatever you can think of that you use as a weapon for your spouse generally is going to backfire.
Mhm.
Sex is the closest that you can get to another human being.
Right.
So, if the enemy, let's take it there to the faith side, if the enemy can get you to withhold
Yep.
from being the closest that you could be to your
Yeah.
spouse,
Yeah.
there the wedge is. That weapon
That's
has
it.
backfired on you
Wow.
because you are killing your relationship as a
Mhm.
result. Communication. If communication can be severed between you
Mhm.
and I'm doing that to you or you're doing that to me, that weapon is going to backfire.
Yeah.
So I'm not for withholding. Here is what I am about. You have to now get to the root of why you feel like you need to withhold.
Of course. Yes.
And that's what you got to deal with.
Yeah. Because you don't just withhold. It's
Right.
not you don't just do that. It's always done with a reason behind it.
Right. You're upset about something.
Yeah.
You're frustrated about something.
Yeah.
You have resentment has built up about something.
So get to the bottom of
Get
that.
to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Right. Don't add on to it.
Mhm.
Withholding is just adding on to it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're just compounding the problem.
Mhm.
You're not fixing it.
Mhm.
And you're not hurting the other person.
Mhm.
You may think you hurting the other person.
Mm.
If I'm withholding sex from you, I may think I'm getting back with you. Oh, well, she gonna be hot and bothered and she gonna be
Well,
thirsty and I'm gonna get her and I'm gonna keep her that way. No, 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 no.
you are hurting the other person, I think. I think you are.
Yeah, and when I say hurting the other person, I mean I'm not saying that the other person isn't phased.
Mhm.
The other person is definitely phased. But you're doing yourself. I'm doing myself more of a disservice than I'm
Mm.
doing you.
Yeah.
Because you don't even know sometimes, and this has been our experience
Yeah.
with the couples that we see that have gone through this.
Yeah.
The other person don't even know.
Mhm.
They're clueless
Yep.
about why the well has dried up.
Right.
So the only thing they're dealing with is the uncertainty around why this is happening.
Mhm.
Me as the withholder, I'm dealing with the hurt, I'm dealing with the anger, I'm
Mhm.
dealing with the resentment,
Mhm.
and I got to withhold. So now I got to withhold from myself as well.
Mhm.
I'm dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff. The other person is just sitting here with their hands up, like, I talk to
I
me.
don't even know what happened. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's that with that. Let's see. The way you give love is not necessarily how you receive. Oh yeah, without a
Yep.
doubt. Which
Right.
is why that conversation is important. So
Yeah.
we're going back to, when is the last time you asked your spouse this? When is the last time you had this conversation? And we were
Mhm.
in sexual questions. So where and how do you like to be touched? What would make, and so here's to piggyback on what we're talking about. What would make our sexual relationship better for you?
Mhm. Good question.
Phenomenal
Good
question. And
question.
I don't know if people caught it. What would make our sexual relationship better for
You.
you?
Yeah. Good question.
That's a great question.
Mhm.
When is the last time you asked your spouse that question? Is it fair to say that withholding is byproduct of the influence of radical feminism upon our society? Besides, no one that says they truly love their spouse would do withholding. So we could kind of we could kind of tussle back and forth with that. Only reason I can't sign off 100% on that is because we have seen the opposite. So we have seen couples where it is the husband holding out.
True, true, true.
So so I understand where you're coming from with that, because generally when we think about withholding sex, usually the examples are based on the woman withholding
Holding.
from the man.
Yeah.
But I have seen the flip.
Right.
So I hear you. I hear
Mm-hmm.
you. And I'm not pushing back on that, but I've seen both sides of it.
Right.
I have seen both sides of it. Now, for the back half of that though, no one that says they truly love their spouse would do withholding. Um,
I don't know if I agree with that.
and the only reason I would say I don't agree with that is because we we don't often know how to process our emotions.
Yeah, I'm thinking too sometimes that couples, when they withhold, it's not necessarily that, for example, if I'm the one withholding,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that I don't love you,
Right.
but it could be that I don't know how to express
Exactly.
that I'm so hurt
Exactly.
by whatever the situation is, or that I don't know how to express that I'm so frustrated, how else to express
Hmm.
that I'm so hurt, or that I'm so frustrated, or that I'm so angry
Yep.
even.
Often that is the case. And that's the only
Yep.
reason why I wouldn't 100% agree with that, because sometimes I have so much love for you
Yeah.
and I don't feel like it's being reciprocated. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out some way to jolt you into,
Right.
you
It's
know what I
not
mean? We just don't know how to process.
sometimes it's not because you want to be spiteful,
Hmm.
right? I'm thinking sometimes it's because I know that this is the one thing that makes you feel the most loved, or
Hmm.
that makes you feel whatever it makes you feel. And because I'm hurting, and because I'm frustrated, and because I'm whatever I am, I want you to
To
feel what
feel
I'm
that.
feeling as
Right.
well.
Yep.
I want you to feel that too,
Yep.
because maybe then, like you said, it will jolt you into, oh my goodness, this is all wrong. Let
Yep.
me do whatever it is, XYZ,
Yep.
to get back on track.
Yep.
It's not necessarily that you're intentionally or selfishly being spiteful by
Hmm.
withholding.
Hmm.
It's just that you want to jolt the other person, or make them feel what you feel
Hmm.
or are feeling at the time.
Yep.
That's the impression that I seem to get a lot with couples.
Hmm. You're absolutely right. You nailed it. Nailed
Yeah.
it. So listen, I joked earlier about the whole Saturday night is not for advice, but I'm actually glad this came up, because
Mhm.
we were going to announce this later, but we're not doing an inside the relationship tomorrow because it's Mother's Day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
happy Mother's Day for everybody, but we'll talk about that at the end. Um, but yeah, that's we have a tough time processing our emotions, and once we get to the point, and we work with couples on this all the time, once we get to the point where you can now be assertive
Mhm.
in your communication without filtering it through frustration,
Right.
now you can say things like, hey, I just I just I feel like I need you
Yeah.
in this particular way.
Mhm.
And then you express what the need is, you express why the need is important, you express how the need benefits the team and how the other person can facilitate that need. Now you're having a very different conversation, and it doesn't have to include withholding.
Yeah.
Elizan said, is it mostly the husband withholding out of control? We've seen both sides.
Both. Yeah.
So I won't say it's mostly one or mostly the other. I think sometimes, depending on the circles that you find yourself in, it may lean one way or the other. We've seen both. We've seen both.
Yeah.
It's not a
Thank you,
weapon. It's a
Alan.
symptom.
Thanks, Alan.
This can and will always be a delicate. Absolutely, it's always
Mhm.
it is a delicate issue. Absolutely. Happy Mother's Day. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Are you
Um,
saying thank you?
Oh yeah, I'm just thanking them for you. We're a team, so you win the trophy, I win the trophy too. That's how this works. that's how that's how this works. Okay,
Uh,
here's a question. We're still in the sexual questions realm. And for those of you who may be jumping in and out of here, we're talking about when is the last time you asked your spouse this? When is
mhm.
the last time you've had a conversation about that?
Oh,
And
Tiara.
here are some of the questions
Thank you, honey.
that we have been asking. Super proud. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, love you.
Thank you. Listen, shout out to Sasha Soul. That's what's up. Go follow them. Wake Up Miami Morning Show. We had the
Mhm.
privilege of being on the Wake Up Miami Morning Show. Listen, they're doing great things over there. Make sure you go
Good
ahead
show. Good
and,
show.
and check her out and team over there at the Wake Up Miami Morning Show.
Mhm.
All right, so here's another question. In a perfect world, how often would you like to have sex?
Great question.
Good question.
Great question.
Another question, and then I'll get out of the sex one. Do you have any sexual fantasies?
Another great question.
Another great question. So we've talked about questions about the past.
Mhm.
The body count thing was a little touchy for some folk.
Mhm.
And then we talked about questions about the future. Talked about some intimate questions about love. Talked about some questions about sex. Let's get some funny, intimate questions, right? So funny, intimate questions. What would you do if you won $1 million? That's a good question, right? It could be a twofold question because you may learn some things about your spouse's spending habits that make you say, "Oh,
Wait a minute
we may
now.
need to we may need to start budgeting right now because they talking crazy about this $1 million."
Mhm.
But that's a good question.
Mhm.
What's the craziest dream?
Mhm.
Which is a great one for us because she just told me this morning she had a crazy dream.
I
Like
did.
I had a what do you say? I had an infection in my beard, which
I,
is ironic because I cut my beard down today.
yeah, and that's
So
what made me remember the dream because it was cut down in my
yeah,
dream. Anyway, that's
yeah. So
silly dream.
maybe I should go see a
Maybe.
dermatologist. I feel good though.
You didn't feel good in my dream. You were scared.
Oh man, here's a good one. When is the last time you've asked this question? This kind of circles back to where we began. What is something you've always wanted to tell me but couldn't?
Mhm.
Now, let me give a disclaimer about this question. This question, you getting
Oh,
tired, huh?
I am
This
sorry,
question,
y'all.
this question is not a question you can spring on your spouse. This question can only come after you have established some level of camaraderie,
Yeah.
some level of team,
Mhm.
and you have really been intentional about creating a safe place.
Mhm.
They know that it's safe. It's safety with you,
Yeah.
and they can trust you. This is not something you can spring on a little bit too early because they're gonna be like, no, even if the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right? Here's a good one. When was the last time you felt the closest to me?
Mm.
I love those kind of
I
questions
love it.
because those kind of questions again help you to reminisce.
Yeah.
Reminiscing is a very important component of staying in alignment
Yeah. Yep.
because it allows you to get some vision and to refocus on what you were trying to build in the first place.
Mhm.
So that's a good question.
Yeah, good question. Good
That
question.
is a good question. So let's see what else we got here. We'll do two or three more and then we'll get out of here. What's your favorite memory?
Mhm.
That's a good one, right?
What did go back a minute?
Mm-hmm.
What was the last thing I did to make you feel truly appreciated? I like
That's a
that.
good one.
Ooh, look at number 2. What is something I do
Ah,
that annoys you?
there's a good one. Now that's when you can really have a mature conversation.
Yeah.
You got to be able to. You can only ask that question if you know that your spouse is not in a place where if you answer it that they just gonna wig out on you. That
Mhm.
you don't want that. That's not a question you ask there. That's a question for mature adults that can have a conversation that can be like, oh man, I never knew that annoyed you. How should I replace that? Right? Then you can talk, then you can have a conversation about needs
Yeah.
at that point.
I mean, because well, maybe though that question is not a deep question like that.
True. That's
Not
true.
like make or break the relationship type question.
That's true. That's true.
Possibly.
That's true. There's a lot of them. So we'll let me see. Let me go down real quick. Let me see a couple more. Um, what is one thing you would never want to change about yourself? That only jumps out to me because I remember the conversation we had before we got married, and I said I'm never going to change,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want you to change either. Which I'm so glad that that didn't take place.
Right. We both changed,
Yeah.
thankfully.
What is your dream vacation? That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Great way to find a gift idea. That's a good question to ask your spouse. What is your
Hmm.
dream vacation? That's a good one.
I like that one because that can then foster the conversation of dreaming and planning and goals, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I like that one.
that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, so that's really what we want to come on and talk about tonight. This, for those of you who are new to this whole thing, the whole point of Saturday night, and please go back and watch them. I'm gonna talk about it in a second, but the whole point of these Saturday night conversations is to get couples talking.
Hmm.
There's so many things that we don't talk about, either because they're tense conversations or they're taboo conversations or
Right.
whatever the scenario is. There's things that we just don't talk about, and we need to talk about them.
Hmm.
We need to talk about them. So if you guys are not familiar and this is your first time checking us out, this show is called Inside the Relationship. No, it's not called Inside the Relationship. That's tomorrow's
This is
show. I'm ahead
have
of
a
myself. This is
conversation
Have a Conversation After
after
Dark. And the
dark,
whole point of this
except it's
is
not dark.
it's not dark tonight. See, here we go. You got those of you who don't, that's the inside joke. But if you go back to the beginning and watch the beginning, you'll understand why she said that. But here we go again with Inside the Relationship. Have a Conversation
Conversation.
After Dark is a show where we throw some stuff out there, man. Some of the stuff is taboo. Everything from masturbation to money
Hmm.
and everything in between. We're gonna have these conversations. The show that I keep saying for some reason is Inside the Relationship. Generally, this show happens on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow being Mother's Day, we will not be here tomorrow. Uh, we're going to celebrate this beautiful woman beside us, and we hope that you celebrate the women in your lives as well. For those of you, our YouTube family, our YouTube family, we love you and we will always do something for you. But we would love to have you over on YouTube. Check out YouTube. This is
Facebook
where
family.
Facebook family. We would love to have you over on YouTube, youtube.com/Denali LLC. Please go over there and subscribe. Tell your friends, share it with
Hmm.
5 other people so that they can subscribe as well.
Listen, and you really need to subscribe and follow us on YouTube because
Yeah.
there's coming up there will be lives or things that we do only from YouTube.
Yes.
You won't be able to see them anywhere else, and you don't want to miss out.
We are slowly but surely taking some things exclusively to YouTube.
Exclusively, that's the word I couldn't think
Right
of.
now, we're doing some things on Facebook as well. I'll give you one thing that's exclusively on YouTube. I do post clips of it, but that is every Wednesday we do a coaching chronicles. That is clips of myself or both of us, actual clips of us in coaching sessions.
Hmm.
You do not see our clients, you do not hear their names or their voices. You only hear what we're saying to them, clips of what we're saying to them.
Yeah.
So make sure that you catch us on YouTube for all of those things.
Hmm.
Alan Kim, we appreciate you, bro. Thank you for that. You said you
Thank you
guys are
so
awesome.
much.
Listen, you guys are awesome too. You guys are
Yes.
doing a great work.
You and your beautiful wife.
Yes, with the couples, man, keep it up. The podcast is phenomenal. They are in the marriage enrichment space as well, and it's
Hmm.
good stuff. It's
Yes.
good stuff. Tabby, great questions. Cool, good stuff.
Yeah.
Listen,
Good
we're all about
questions.
conversation, man. Sometimes you just pour your favorite beverage, sit down on the couch and laugh and joke and have some conversation, man, and learn some things about
Learn
each other.
some
I
things.
think it's important to learn some things about each other. So that's
Hmm.
it. That's all we got tonight. When is the last time you said this? When
Hmm.
is the last time you asked your spouse that? When is the last time you had a conversation about the other?
Hmm.
It's time for you to talk. it's
Yeah.
time for
It's
you.
time for you to get
It's
some
time for
water
me.
so
Yeah, it's
you
time
can
for me to
talk.
clear my throat. it's time for you to talk. All right, family. So listen, we hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Have a phenomenal weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of the
Happy
mothers.
Mother's Day to all of the mothers, mother figures, all of the
Absolutely.
aunties, all of the step ins, all of the sisters, all of those who mother in whatever way that you mother. Happy Mother's Day
Happy Mother's Day.
to all of you.
Enjoy it. We'll be 30 years on Tuesday.
Oh my
Wow. Hold on. We need
goodness.
something for that, man. Man, that's what's up.
30
30
years.
years on
Oh,
Tuesday. That's dope.
oh, that's phenomenal.
That
That's
is dope.
great.
That's super dope. Super dope.
Congratulations and happy anniversary.
Happy Mother's Day, Denise, and all the mothers
Thank
on
you.
YouTube from Elizanne. Happy
Thank
Mother's Day
you.
to
Happy
all the
Mother's
mothers.
Day to you all as well.
All right, listen, we're going to get out of here, family. And you already know what it's about. It's about having a conversation, right? And I'm going to say, well, let's say what we would normally say on Sunday, since we won't be here on Sunday. The first thing is be intentional about creating an experience that will help you to grow your level of intimacy.
Hmm.
And what is the other thing?
Until your 1 + 1 is 1, you're never done.
All right, family. We'll see you in the next video. Again, we're taking a break tomorrow from Inside the Relationship. Go back to YouTube and you can catch all the other episodes of Inside the Relationship if you get a chance to tomorrow, which you probably won't because you're celebrating the folks in your life. Let me say this before I go. To all of those whose mom is not here, who has lost their mom for one reason or another, we lift you up as well. It's
Hmm.
not just about celebrating the folk who are right here in our face. It's about celebrating the legacy and the memory of those who went before us as well.
And
So
also
happy
to
Mother's
the,
Day to
it's
those
just,
folks.
oh, it's such a huge spectrum of who can be celebrated. You don't
Yeah.
really want to miss anyone out. But I just also thought about to all of those who have lost children, lost their loved
Yeah.
ones. Happy
Yeah.
Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to
Yeah.
everyone.
Across the
Don't want to
board.
leave anyone out.
Across the board. Listen, we love you, family. Check us out on YouTube. Go back and watch other episodes. Tell your friends about us.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving. We are shaking by God's grace. We are taking flight, and we want you to be a part of this with us, man. So tell somebody else about us. Have a great evening. We see you in the next
Good
video.
night, everyone.